It was the cold night of January 29th, 2022, when Karen Redd and her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O Keefe, drove through dimly lit streets of Canton, Massachusetts, their breaths clouding in the frigid winter air. The couple, having spent the evening drinking at two local bars, were emotionally raw and volatile. Their relationship, by all accounts, was under stress, tense, passionate, perhaps fracturing. Shortly after midnight, Karen and John arrived at a gathering, a party at the house of Brian Albert, a retired Boston police officer. According to multiple sources, including court testimony, the party was loosely connected to law enforcement, a social circle of cops, former cops, and their friends. Karen didn't stay long. Her version of events, supported by her defense, holds that she dropped John off at Albert's house, waited for a while, called him repeatedly, and after being ignored, eventually she left. Before we go deep into the story, please subscribe to my channel and comment your thoughts about this incident. Like and share, thank you. What happened next is hotly contested. A body in the snow in the early morning hours of January 29th, around 6:03 a.m., John O Keefe was found unresponsive on the lawn of Albert's house in Canton. Emergency responders were called. According to witnesses, Karen was hysterical when she saw his body. She screamed, kicked the door of the house, shouted, "There he is! Let me out of this car!" She ran into the snow, collapsing over him, sobbing that she had hit him. A shoe was later found buried in snow near his body, and fragments of red and clear plastic littered the area, which investigators would later link to Karen's SUV taillight. Karen's phone records reveal a torrent of voicemails she left for John after dropping him off. In the space of about 5 hours, she made dozens of calls, angry, raw, emotional messages accusing him of infidelity, of using her, then shifting to worry and fear. She was really mad at him for cheating. Paramedics arrived and John was taken to a hospital, but he died soon after, of blunt force head trauma and hypothermia. The medical examiner noted skull fractures, brain bleeding, and other injuries consistent with severe impact, but no obvious signs of a large-scale physical fight. But at that point, a murder case unfolds. 3 days after the discovery, police arrested Karen. Prosecutors charged her with a litany of serious crimes: second-degree murder and manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence alcohol, OUI, involuntary manslaughter, motor vehicle homicide, and leaving the scene of an accident causing death. Their theory was stark. Karen, heavily intoxicated, with a blood alcohol level estimated at 2 to 3 times the legal limit. They argued she deliberately reversed her Lexus SUV into John after an argument, struck him, and then fled scene, leaving him to die in the snow. Key to the prosecution's case was the taillight evidence. Broken pieces of red and clear plastic found near John's body matched the taillight from Karen's SUV. Crash reconstruction experts testified using data from the car's inbuilt telematics system, TechStream. The system recorded a moment when the car shifted into reverse, accelerated to nearly 38.9 kilometers per hour, then dropped slightly with the wheel jolting. Behavior, they argued, was consistent with a crash with a pedestrian. Prosecutors also pointed to Karen's own words. First responders claimed she repeatedly told them, I hit him, but little did she know they would use that against her. A conspiracy, a cover-up. Karen's legal team mounted a very different story. They argued from day one that she was framed, that there was a concerted, law enforcement-oriented cover-up to make her the fall person for John's death. According to them, alternative theory of death. John didn't die in a car crash. According to the defense, he was beaten inside the party, possibly attacked by a dog, and then dumped outside on the lawn. They even claimed that his abrasions on his arms were consistent with dog bites, not a car collision. The lead investigator in Massachusetts State, Trooper Michael Proctor, became a focal point. During the first trial, text messages emerged in which Proctor insulted Karen, calling her a whack job and expressing hope she would kill herself. The defense alleged his bias tainted the entire investigation. Phone and health data. They challenged how authorities interpreted John's Apple Health and phone data. The prosecution said his health data, step count, showed him climbing stairs that would imply he entered the house party. but the defense argued that the GPS and other data actually kept him outside. Regarding the taillight evidence, reconstruction experts for the defense argued that the damage to Karen's SUV was not consistent with striking a human head. They claimed the taillight could have been broken in a different incident, for instance, while she reversed later that morning, and that some taillight pieces only appeared in the yard after her vehicle was taken by the police. Another contentious piece was a Google search for "how long to die in cold" or similar. Prosecutors claimed this was proof she researched how to kill him via hypothermia. The defense said the timeline was wrong. They argued maybe the search was made earlier, or that the history was tampered with or misread. First trial outcome, mistrial, and the fallout. The first trial in 2024 was intense, crowded, and deeply polarized. After 68 witnesses and 8 weeks of testimony, the jury began deliberations. But after about 25 hours, they couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. A note from the jury foreperson suggested that the group was deeply divided. Some jurors believed the prosecution's version. Others found the defense's conspiracy theory compelling. Ultimately, the judge declared a mistrial. The first trial also exposed serious tensions within law enforcement. Trooper Proctor was relieved of duty. An internal investigation was launched into misconduct during the investigations. The case, meanwhile, had become a media spectacle. Podcasts, documentaries, true crime enthusiasts, and online communities debated it fiercely. Retrial and public spotlight. After the mistrial, the prosecution prepared for a retrial. By then, the case had turned into a kind of cause célèbre. People on both sides turned out in force, inside and outside the courtroom. Reed's supporters, many wearing pink as a show of solidarity, gathered silently during her court appearances, using a hand gesture, pinky, pointer, and thumb extended, that became iconic. At the same time, legal experts described the trial as a compromise verdict in character, because the jury seemed to struggle between holding someone accountable and respecting reasonable doubt. Critical evidence revisited. During the retrial, a number of pivotal pieces of evidence were revisited, challenged, and reinterpreted. The blood, alcohol, and voicemails prosecutors again emphasized Karen's intoxication. Toxicologists estimated her blood alcohol content, BAC, at a level that, while not precisely agreed, was well above legal limits. The voicemail she left John late that night, full of anger, hurt, jealousy, love, were played. SUV telematics system played. The defense challenged the reliability of the telematics data. They argued that the data might have been extracted poorly in the first trial. In fact, the prosecution applied to reassemble and retest the system, claiming significant data was not captured the first time. One expert even claimed that how the car moved did not necessarily mean there was a collision with a person. Taillight evidence. As before, shards of plastic at the scene were argued to match Karen's SUV's taillight. The forensics expert for the prosecution said the match was compelling. Microscopic pieces of taillight plastic were found on John's clothing. The defense's counter, the damage to her car did not align with a high-speed reverse hit to a human head. Phone and health data. John's Apple Health data recorded steps and flights of stairs in the early hours, but the defense pressed that his phone location data didn't conclusively place him in the house at the time of the incident. They also questioned the chain of custody of devices. They alleged that Proctor may have had access to John's phone before it was formally handed to forensic experts. The autopsy showed superficial abrasions on John's arm, skull fractures, internal bleeding, but no deep defensive wounds on his hands, which one might expect in a fight. The defense reintroduced testimony from a dog bite specialist. They argued that some of the marks could have come from an animal, not a fist or a crash. They also raised questions about whether the injuries on his head were consistent with being struck by a vehicle at the angles proposed. The Google search about "how long to die in cold" resurfaced in the retrial. Prosecutors argued it was damning. The defense pushed back hard, offering alternative timestamps, deletion explanations, even claims of data overwriting. The verdict, a complicated conclusion. On June 18, 2025, after more than 22 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. In a dramatic moment that reverberated through courtrooms and the media, They found Karen Redd not guilty of second-degree murder, not guilty of manslaughter and leaving the scene, but guilty of the lesser offense of drunken driving, OUI. Sentencing followed. Instead of prison, she received 1 year of probation for the DUI conviction. Many observers called the verdict a compromise, a way for jurors to hold her somewhat accountable without fully accepting she committed murder. Legal experts noted there was simply not enough beyond reasonable doubt to convict her of the most serious charges. Aftermath, repercussions, lawsuits, and reflection of public reaction. Supporters of Karen Redd voiced relief and vindication. Many outside the courthouse formed a silent but powerful show of unity, hands raised in her signature gesture, hugging, shedding tears. But not everyone agreed. Some critics saw the verdict as a miscarriage of justice, arguing that Karen's ability to shape her defense and public image gave her an edge others might not have. The controversies around Trooper Michael Proctor and his conduct during the investigation did not evaporate. His earlier texts calling Karen vile names had sparked internal probes. Federal probe. There was a federal investigation into potential misconduct or a cover-up among law enforcement. But in March 2025, prosecutors closed it without filing any charges. Karen, for her part, did not settle into silence. She filed a civil rights lawsuit against state police investigators and civilian witnesses from the trials. In her complaint, she alleged she was framed, scapegoated, and targeted unfairly because of her outsider status among law enforcement. Her legal team has discussed nothing is off the table, including potential civil damages. Podcasts and online communities continue to debate what really happened. The taillight murder, the conspiracy theories, and the nature of justice when the accused is deeply enmeshed in law enforcement circles. Karen Redd was not a typical suspect from some perspectives. Before this nightmare, she was a financial analyst, an adjunct professor, someone described by her friends and family as intelligent, articulate, complex. Her defense painted her as deeply wronged, potentially framed by a tightly knit law enforcement network that closed ranks around one of their own. She has spoken publicly about living in a nightmare, of not knowing what happened that night, of revisiting the voicemails, the memories, the guilt, or the perceived injustice. John O Keefe, by contrast, was a Boston police officer with a life rooted in duty, service, and relationships. By many accounts, he was loved by friends and family, respected in his job, and caught in a relationship that was, at times, volatile. His death left a vacuum and many questions. Why this case captivated people? Toxic love story, the narrative of a passionate but unstable relationship, fueled by alcohol, jealousy, and heartbreak, mirrors many classic tragic stories. The late-night calls, the anger, the pain, it draws people in. Law enforcement and power dynamics. That John was a police officer and that the party was embedded in a law enforcement social circle raised suspicions of bias, cover-up, and institutional protection. For many, this case became not just about Karen and John, but about whether the system protects its own at the expense of justice. Forensics and technology. The use of telematics data, phone health data, crash reconstruction. These technical, cutting-edge tools made the trial feel modern and scientifically intense. But interpreting that data left a lot of room for debate. Media, true crime, and public opinion. From documentaries to podcasts to forums, the case became a public spectacle. Fans, critics, conspiracy theorists, all found a place in the story. Karen's supporters and detractors both felt morally and emotionally invested. Ultimately, the trial highlighted how difficult it can be to reach certainty. The evidence was powerful but not unequivocal. The jury's compromise verdict reflected that tension. They held Karen responsible to a degree, the DUI, but could not convict her of murder. The questions that remain. Did Karen actually hit John, or was he attacked by someone else? If she did hit him, was it intentional in rage or an intoxicated mistake? If she didn't, then who attacked him and why? Was there a broader law enforcement cover-up, as her defense claims? What role did internal bias and institutional loyalty play in the investigation? And now in civil court, can she force a reckoning? Or will she simply remain acquitted in criminal court, but forever entangled in doubt? This case remains one of the most complicated and emotionally fraught in recent American crime history. It is a story of love and jealousy, of power and privilege, of science and suspicion. So far, no one has been charged yet for the murder of John O Keefe, and the investigation is still ongoing, and I will keep you guys updated. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and comment your thoughts. Do you think John O Keefe was murdered by his colleagues at the party? Or do you think he was hit by Karen Redd, probably mistake while dropping him off? Please let me know your opinion. Thank you once again.